and conducting yourself this morning, and hopefully you'll enjoy the day and the number of different activities that are going to be put on for you. Part of our day today is to have a presentation from a guest speaker, and many of your parents were in a position to join us last night when he spoke to your mums and dads, and also he had a colleague with him on Zoom. But our special guest today is Mr. Brendan Maher. Now, those boys that were here last year will recognise Mr. Maher. He did a shout-out video for us in November last year when we had our RUOK Day. Mr. Maher is the Global Director, as you can see on the screen, of Movember. So he's involved in, obviously you've seen the campaign, and a number of the teaching staff were involved last year, growing the moustaches in November. But Mr. Maher runs the campaign. Once the money's been raised, where does the money go to and how does it be distributed? And it is a worldwide activity, as I mentioned, and he travels around, obviously pre-COVID and obviously once COVID finishes, but there are 8 offices in 8 different countries around the world. Prior to Mr. Maher working at Movember, he was actually the CEO of RUOK, which is the day that we're celebrating today. And he remains to this day on the board of the National Board of RUOK. So Mr. Maher arrived yesterday, as I mentioned. He lives on the south coast of New South Wales. So for him to arrive in Cairns to speak to you today, and he'll spend the day with you at least till after lunch, he had to drive 2 hours from his home to Canberra, flew on a plane obviously from Canberra to Brisbane, had 3 hours waiting at the airport in Brisbane to jump on a plane to Cairns. And he's going to do the reverse of that tomorrow. So he'll finally get back to his own home probably about 9 o'clock tomorrow night. But he's decided that obviously with what you're doing, and particularly under the, I guess, the drive of Brother Roger, he's seen that the work and the impact that you're having and the enthusiasm that you have for this day. So he obviously felt it a priority to give up yesterday to travel, give up Friday to travel, to be here with you today. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce and welcome Mr. Brendan Maher.
Thanks very much, Mr. Brendan. Mr. Brendan forgot to mention that his very first teaching year at Marist College in Canberra, he was actually my teacher and coach of the mighty 3rd 15 rugby team. So, Matt, it's good to see you again. Yeah, we've kept in touch for a lot of years, and really glad to be here, and really appreciate the opportunity to be able to talk to you a little bit about RUOK, about Movember, a little bit about my journey, and most importantly, if one or two of you can leave here today with a little bit more confidence, a little bit more willingness and preparedness to get alongside someone that you're worried about and have a conversation with them, then it's been time well spent. But before we get into the crux of what I'm going to talk to you about, I had the pleasure of getting around and having a look at some of the street art that was here this morning. I apologise I couldn't get here a little bit earlier, but I had to have the unenviable task of choosing some of the ones that stood out to me. So if I show you a photo of a piece of art that you're involved with, come on up and help yourself to a rugby ball or a soccer ball, Aussie Rules ball, with some t-shirts in there as well. But it's always great to see messages like RUOK expressed in pictures and words. So it's okay to say no. Is very important, I think, and a big premise of the message of RUOK. So whoever was involved in that message, please come and grab yourself a footy. It's okay not to be okay. Again, it's an important message, so come on down and help yourself to some paraphernalia. This was a good one because we often talk about scaffolding and people around you, and RUOK really does focus on targeting people around someone who's not doing well, and so the idea of giving someone wings really stood out to me as a good message. Hashtag ask. There's a couple more in here. Some of these really great pictures and images. If yours has just come up, and this was actually one of my favourites. I love Piglet. There's always good messages about being a good mate. So help yourself to a prize there, and we'll get on with things. So thank you everyone, and a round of applause for everyone who got involved in that. there's another one. All right, a bit of background. As Matt mentioned, I was a Canberra kid. Went to St Jude's and to Marist College, Canberra. I've got a very big family. I've got 7 sisters and 5 brothers. So that's the crew. This is my wife and 3 adult children. And this is kind of the clan, the offspring and grandkids and great-grandkids. And there's about 20 more have been added to that since that photo was taken. So, yeah, families are a very big part of my life. I got into to mental health about 15 years ago when I joined an organisation called Lifeline. So my background was in advertising, marketing and brand. And I worked with Lifeline on basically redoing their logo. And doing a branding exercise with them, and that evolved into having stepping into that organisation as a fundraiser, and then ultimately as a general manager of their marketing and government relations and fundraising and stuff like that. After 6 years at Lifeline, I left, and I had the great privilege of joining RUOK. It was a pretty difficult time for RUOK because the founder, Gavin Larkin, had passed away about 18 months beforehand. And there was only 4 people in the organisation, and when I got there, they were pretty bruised and battered. They were still grieving the loss of Gav, who was bigger than life itself. And so we kind of had to work to really mobilise this awesome brand that was really in the hearts and minds of Australia. So I had 6 great years there, and it was a huge privilege, and I'm still involved as a board member. After RUOK, I moved to Movember, which is really ironic because I cannot grow a moustache to save myself, and it's ginger. And the best thing about Movember, if you ask my wife, is the end of the month when I actually shave off what is generally a really, really bad attempt. I'm sure most of you from year 7 to 12 will do a better job than I can, actually, to be honest. But Movember is the biggest men's health charity in the world. And our vision is to be the leading global organisation committed to changing the face of men's health. And we focus on men and boys. In 2005, 2 blokes, Travis Garone and Luke Slattery, were sitting in a pub in St Kilda in Melbourne, and they saw a guy walk across the road with a big chopper moustache, and they had a bit of a laugh and said, "Whatever happened to the mo? It's kind of gone out of fashion." So they got a bunch of mates together and they grew a mo, 30 of them, and they had a party at the end and they raised a few bucks. And that's evolved into a global charity that's raised over $1 billion to support men's health initiatives. And part of my role is to try and work out where we invest our money, the funds that we raise from the community, in mental health and suicide prevention. Our main cause areas are prostate cancer, mental health and suicide prevention, testicular cancer, and health promotion, which covers the whole thing. So prostate cancer and testicular cancer kill a lot of guys, but if you get to it early, the survival rates are really good. Young men in particular, testicular cancer, it's a big one. It's quite a rare cancer, but Movember's work in testicular cancer is mainly about encouraging guys to check themselves in the shower and notice changes in the shape or presentation of their testicles and to act on that and go and see a doctor. Because if you get to that stuff early, you generally got a pretty good chance of surviving. It's the same with prostate cancer. Quite often guys don't make it because they ignore symptoms and they go to the doctor and it's too late. So we really encourage people to get in and get their prostate checked. And it's the same for mental health. So we don't work in crisis support. We want to keep people out of the pointy end by encouraging people to be able to be better mates and to be socially connected and to be educated on what's normal, what's not normal. How can I notice when things aren't quite right in myself or with my mates. So I want to give you a quick snapshot of some of Movember's work in mental health across the world.
want to do. Just throw out something positive to the younger kids. Don't feel like you've got to be ashamed of anything that's happening at home or in the streets.
Change can come through these programs, and I've seen it change lives.
1, 2, double jab. 1, 2, double jab.
These are socially isolated young men. This is a program about friendship. It's about connecting people. It's about supporting each other through tough times, because that's really what we're here for.
Programs like Photo Voice allow a group of veterans to work together to solve their own problems.
They said that this is the way that we do things in the military. We plan a mission, and then we do that mission together.
Guys can't go up to each other and say, you know what, man, I'm lonely. You fancy being a mate? You fancy going to the pub with me? Guys can't do that. Why? Why can't they do it? Because there's a stigma around it. There's no stigma coming here. Anybody is welcome at Pipeline.
There are so many guys in Australia that are struggling alone. They're not having conversations, they're not reaching out saying that I need help. This program with Waves of Wellness is about being able to normalise the fact that we all go through really shit times in life, so let's just have a yarn about them. And in the meantime, let's go surfing.
For a population of about 1,000, we expect 5 young people to die every year from suicide. The best way for us to heal is that we need to heal ourselves. So in the land-based program, the young men and boys who grew up with a well-known hunter learn how to live off the land, they learn the culture. These guys are alive.
Movember Foundation is changing the game for us.
I think the most important thing is actually the hope that this brings.
We're changing lives, we're changing attitudes, we're helping men.
Gives you a bit of an idea of some of the work that we do. The Young Hunters, that's up in the northern part of Canada, and that's part of our work in better supporting Indigenous communities, and that program's all about, you know, connection to land and country, and it's been an incredibly successful program for these young men who have had not much, and yeah, we're looking for opportunities at the moment in Australia to sort of replicate some of that work. So let's have a little bit of let's test the room here a little bit about perhaps how we're feeling, because Movember did some research around COVID time, and we researched about 5,000 guys across the globe. And we found out quite a few things about them, but I'm kind of interested to see whether some of those numbers apply to this room. So the last 6 to 12 months have been difficult and different for a lot of us. Hands up if over the last 6 months you've picked up a new hobby. Yep. Hands up if you picked up any bad habits over the last 6 months. Good, honest group, I like it. In the last month or so, has a friend reached out to you to see if you're okay? That's great to see. In the last month or so, have you checked in on someone you've been worried about? In the last month or so, have you struggled to find... in the last month or so, have you felt lonely or disconnected yourself? At times, yep. In the last month or so, have you struggled to find the words to connect with a mate who might need support? Great. Well, that means that the next part of this is going to be really useful, I hope. Because what we're going to talk about, and I know that this is already familiar to a lot of you because you've engaged in RUOK for many years, and I've always loved the fact that this is a campaign and a movement that gets embraced from a young age. And I saw it out in the street art, and it's a simple message, and it's something that we can all do because we don't have to be an expert. Sometimes all we need is a little bit of guidance, a little bit of a roadmap on how to get around someone who we're worried about, to support them and to have a conversation. So RUOK was founded by Gav Larkin in 2009, and our mission is to empower everyone to be able to support those around them who are struggling with life. So we don't target people who are struggling, we target the people around the person who's struggling, so we can be better equipped to support someone we're concerned about. I'm going to quickly share Gav's story and the story of RUOK to give you a bit of background, because it came from a very real place, from a lived experience that Gav was motivated to start this movement.
RUOK Day grew out of a project that I started around looking to do something that inspired me and that was altruistic, something that could help other people.
Today is the day when we reach out to family and friends with a simple question.
Well, I'm an ambassador for RUOK Day. I think you are too, aren't you? Yes.
Dad named his idea RUOK Day. And I can remember the night he came home and told us about it. I didn't think it was going to be as big as it has become. And now look where I am, talking in front of you about RUOK Day.
My father took his own life in 1995 and it was devastating.
So I've sort of cut off from everybody now. And in that time, if I hadn't spoken to anyone, it's only been someone in the shop to, you know, order something or get a paper or some bread or something like that. And I've decided that tonight's the night that I'll finish my life.
The idea of finding something that would honour that memory but was consistent with the kind of guy he was important. We intentionally chose the strapline of RUOK Day being a conversation could change a life, because it actually is the one thing that all of us can do to make a real difference. Getting connected, staying connected, is the best thing any of us can do, both for ourselves and for anybody who may be at risk. That said, it's not just about those at risk. We want everybody in Australia, right across the spectrum of society, to just reach out to the people in their lives that they care about and essentially let them know that they do care by asking, are you okay?
Gav's never far away. You know, I often think, you know, what would Gav think about this? And I hope that he'd be happy with where we're going.
He'd be very happy. He would be very happy.
Every day we're hearing how people are having conversations that are changing lives. It's no longer a question for a single day. The conversations are happening every day of the year.
Every Australian, every human has that gut feeling when they know that something's not right with their buddy. And I think it's just about engaging them, getting together, having a chat, having a beer, doing what you usually do.
There are so many lonely people, and often people who know them just don't give them a thought.
When was the last time that you asked a mate or a colleague, are you okay? If it's been a while, it might be time you picked up the phone.
Just that conversation, that question changed my life.
So, I mean, it's a hard story in a lot of ways, you know, because Gav's not with us, but, you know, he was always very driven to get this movement happening, and it really has, you know, been embraced incredibly well by Australians and now overseas in a lot of places as well. So the reality is that life happens to all of us. We're not talking here just about mental ill health or mental illness. You know, we break up with someone and, you know, our hearts get broken. Someone close to us dies. We have a stressful time at school or work. There's a problem at home. We face physical health or mental ill health, and we know that these times, the support of our friends and family and our schoolmates can make a massive, massive difference. The thing about guys is we're actually not as good at keeping that social scaffolding in place, particularly as we get older, and we've got to do better. I'm 43 years of age, and I've still got some incredibly good mates from my Marist days. Guys that I keep in contact with, but not as regularly as I would like to. You know, a month turns into 6 months, turns into 2 years. You've really got to kind of work hard to keep those connections in place. And we really found through some of the research that Movember did that often family and other things become the priority. So as guys get older, it becomes more difficult to have those conversations because there's perhaps not as many mates around. And those of us who appear to have everything going for us and have plenty of mates, because some of us are very good at keeping all of that stuff in check, we're not always comfortable in talking about how things are going in life. And if we're going through a bad patch, well, a lot of guys struggle in silence and don't ask for help until it reaches a crisis point, and sometimes not at all. And that's where we come in as a help giver, as someone who can support someone who's not doing well. You don't have to be an expert. It all comes down to being able to notice how someone's doing, notice changes in people's behaviour, and then initiating a conversation. We talk at RUOK about trusting the signs. What is it that's different about this person? What is it that's causing me to be concerned about them? And when you notice a change, no matter how small it is, we want you to trust your gut and start an RUOK conversation. So let's talk about how to do that, when it's time to ask. There's a whole load of things, from verbal indicators, things that people are saying. There's non-verbal indicators, things that people are doing. And there's life events, things that we know are happening in their life. I mean, if someone dies, it's a pretty big event and it affects people differently. They break up with a partner. It can be a really big event, particularly for young guys and for old guys. So what are the signs? What are people saying? Do they seem moody or irrational? Lonelier or less confident than normal? Sad or unmotivated? Unable to switch off? Confused? Concerned they're a burden? They might be saying things like, oh, I don't think I can do it, or I can't come. I'm not available, when normally they're available. Well, there's different language than the person that you normally know. What are they doing? Are they becoming withdrawn? Are they having difficulty concentrating? Are they less interested in how they look? Are they changing their behaviour online? Someone who's been really active in social media, suddenly not there anymore. Are they losing interest in things that they love, like sport or going out, hanging around? These are often good indicators that someone's not travelling well. And are they experiencing life's events like a relationship breakdown, health issues, someone in the family, problems at home, stress at school, loss of something or someone they care about? So how do we ask? It's important, if we're going to reach out to support someone, that we do it authentically and we choose our timing. And when you ask someone how they're going, you've got to be ready for them to say, you know what, I'm actually not going too well. And you don't have to have the answers. It's okay. It's often said the things that keep us up at night aren't as bad once we've shared them with a friend. So listening to them talk about their own struggles, and it could be difficult, but I can tell you it can make a profound difference to someone who's not doing well. So pick your moment. Find a place that's reasonably quiet, comfortable. Maybe it's out of school hours. Organise a time to catch up with them. If they can't talk, approach them later and ask for a better time. But this isn't a conversation that you're likely going to have with other people around, particularly if you're genuinely concerned about someone. We've mobilised a conversation model called ALEC. Ask, listen, encourage action and check in. It's kind of like the slip, slop, slap of conversations. We want people to be able to remember the 4 steps. And I've got a quick video that runs through the 4 steps. It's kind of a little bit probably for a younger audience, but it'll give you a bit of an idea of the 4 steps to having a conversation. And I'm just conscious of the time too, so I haven't got too much longer.
Alec and Jenny are mates, but lately, Alec's noticed Jenny has been sad. We want him to be a good friend and check she's okay. He should follow the 4 conversation steps. Ask. Alec should pick a comfortable space to ask Jenny how she's going. He can say he's her mate and has noticed she's been sad. Listen. He should listen closely to what Jenny says without talking over her. Encourage action. He should encourage Jenny to talk to her family and friends, a doctor, or a trusted person, such as the school counsellor. Check in. Alex should ask Jenny how she is a few days later. If Jenny doesn't want to talk to him, he can suggest she opens up to someone she trusts. If you're worried about a friend, it's okay to talk about it. Just remember to follow the 4 steps. Ask, listen, encourage action, and check in. Alec can be a good mate, and so can you. Are you okay?
So in summary, be relaxed. Make an observation. Look, I haven't seen you lately. Is everything going all right? You haven't been answering my calls. It's not like you. I haven't seen you at footy training. It's really important to explain to that person why you're concerned about them. It gives them less wriggle room to kind of back out and say, actually, no, I'm fine, no, all good. Yeah, really? Mate, you just don't seem yourself. It's a good way to show that you've noticed and you care, and it's a good way to be a good mate. Listening's about taking them seriously, not rushing the conversation. You don't have to have the answers. If they get angry or upset, stay calm. These conversations can be really difficult. Let them know that you're asking because you want to help. Encouraging action isn't about giving them a list of things they need to do. Do this, do that. It's not about fixing their problems. That can actually put people under more pressure. So what you want to do is find a way forward for them. Have you thought about, where we can go from here? What do you think you can do to resolve the situation? Is there someone else we can talk to? And importantly, checking in. So following up, closing the loop a week or 2 later. Look, Matt, how'd you go? Did you go and see the doctor? I did, Brendan, and I'm feeling better. I'm back on top of things. That's what it's about. It's about that loop. Ask, listen, encourage action, and check in. It's about being authentic. Yeah, we can have cupcakes and balloons and do all that stuff around Are You OK? But there is a time when we can really mobilise this question and this conversation model to support someone who really needs our support. Don't ever underestimate the power that we have in getting someone out of a rough spot and pointing them towards a more hopeful spot. I've got a brother who's not well. He's got a mental illness and he's got bipolar and he's up and down. And he's just emerged from 3 months of being in a very, very dark place where we don't see him. He completely withdraws. And every couple of days I'll send him a text message and I say, how you going, mate? And he doesn't always respond. Sometimes he does. But when he's well, he always says to me, Brendan, those messages you send me, I know I don't respond, but they mean a lot. And I'm really grateful that you send them to me because when I'm lying in bed looking at the wall, it's good to know that someone is thinking of me and cares about me, and that makes me want to kind of keep going. Seems like a really trivial little thing, but it's the little things that really count, that really, really count. And that's the simplicity of Are You OK? 4 steps. Notice, first of all, observe, get alongside that person, ask, listen, encourage action, and check in. I'm going to wrap up here because we're out of time, but what's really important in any of this work is looking after ourselves. And if we're doing it tough, the college has got some fantastic resources. We've got a school counsellor. We've got many of the staff here that are trained in mental health first aid, and we've got a highly engaged school of peers that are ready and willing to look out for one another. Follow your gut, support your mates, keep doing what you're doing, and thanks for letting me stand up here and talk to you guys for half an hour. It's been a great privilege. Thank you.
Firstly, I'd just like to say a big thank you to Mr. Brendan Marr. That was a really amazing presentation. Like Mr. Brendan said, he's come all the way from New South Wales to present with us today. I think it was very well worth it, and there's a lot of takeaways we can get from that. Something that particularly I thought was interesting was all the small groups out there, like the Waves of Wellness, the Young Hunters, and the Men's Pie Club. I think it's good to know that there are small communities out there for you boys to, be with your mates. I'd just like to say a big thank you on behalf of St. Augustine's and all the boys here, not only for the presentation you've given us today, but also for all the work you've done in making the future a better place for us blokes. And I've got a small gift here just to say thank you.